T1 recently became world champions this year, defeating BLG in a nail-biting 5-game series that broke viewership records. Coming into this tournament as defending champions, T1 truly embodied the spirit of the world's anthem, Heavy is the Crown, and boy did they deliver. T1 had unfinished business from Worlds last year, beating all LPL teams except for BLG to become world champions. And at this year's Worlds, it could not have been a better storyline. In the Grand Finals, T1 are defending their crown against the LPL final boss, which is BLG. So in this video, let's analyze the Grand Finals, how BLG nearly rewrote history, but ultimately, how T1 came out victorious and won Worlds for a 5th time. We begin our analysis in Game 1, when both T1 and BLG are looking to contest Grubs. Both bot lanes have recalled and are running to Grubs, but T1 has both mid prio and top prio with Zeus and Faker closer than Bin and Knight to join the fight. But BLG catch T1 off guard, and they punish them for being greedy. Here, BLG makes a pick on Keria when they know Oner and Guma are hitting Grubs. T1 secures the first Grub, but then they have to concede the rest to BLG. This same exact play happens again in Game 3. BLG knows that Oner has a predictable playstyle of starting Grubs as soon as they spawn, so once again, they look to make a pick on an isolated T1 member. On and Shun gank and kill Faker, just as Oner is getting Grubs, and once again, BLG secure the remaining 2 Grubs. And in the same game when the second set of Grubs spawn, Oner makes the same mistake again. Here, BLG gets a kill on Zeus by diving top, and in the meantime, T1 responds with mid pressure. It seems like BLG are taking a reset, with Bin basing and Knight who has very low HP from the dive. So Oner just assumes Grubs are his and walks up to start them, but he immediately regrets his decision. On tries to punish Oner with a flash blitz hook, but he misses. But still, T1 are in a very bad spot from their greed for Voidgrubs. Faker tries to redirect aggro onto himself to save Oner, but he also regrets this because the 2 members of BLG who seem to be taking a reset are actually quick to join the fight. Bin recalled but is teleporting back, and Knight is still here and he uses Galio ult to punish Faker. Guma and Keria try to save Oner and Faker, but since this is a 4v5, T1 stands no chance. BLG chase down T1 for easy kills onto Keria and Faker. These bad habits around Grubs were punished in Games 1 and 3, which are the 2 games that T1 dropped to BLG. These mistakes were enough for BLG to easily take Game 3, as well as Game 1, with a little extra team fighting. Once BLG got early game leads, they snowballed their leads with amazing positional setups. For example, at 15 minutes into Game 1, T1 are sieging BLG's mid-outer tower, but BLG recognizes that this is their chance to flank T1 and catch them out. So when Shun secures a Rift Herald, BLG has all eyes on mid for a 3-point flank. Shun and Knight are coming from top, while Bin and On are coming from bot, and Elk is holding ground mid. Elk starts to fight with an Ash Arrow that stuns Zeus, and On inserts himself in the middle of T1, daring them to focus him so that the rest of BLG can dogpile on T1. T1 are checkmated, and On gets the easiest multi-man rel ult of his life. Bin is cooking T1 with his Flame Spitter, while Knight is blasting T1 with a stolen Braum ult. T1 has resigned from this fight, and they are lucky to lose just 3 members from this insane positional diff. Later the same game, BLG gets a clean win at Baron from positional advantages once again. T1 has no vision of BLG doing Baron until Guma uses a blue trinket to spot Barons at 3/4 HP. But they only spot Shun and Elk, and have no idea where Bin, Knight, and On are. As viewers, we can see that Knight is off on a side for a nasty flank, while T1 are lured into the river and are spotted by the control ward. T1 tries to play cautiously, and they place a ward over the wall, but it's too late. Once again, they have already been checkmated, but they don't even realize it. BLG pull off Baron, and Knight appears out of nowhere from the right to murder T1. Knight nails a Sejuani ult onto Guma for a clean pick. BLG then go back to Baron, but this time, On wants a piece of the action, and now it's his turn to be on flank duty. T1 has to check Baron once again, and this time, Zeus is overly cautious, and he wraps around the Raptor pit to mark BLG's flanker. But once again, when T1 spots the flanker, it is just too late. T1 has been checkmated again. Oner desperately wants to go for a smite steal, but his positioning is absolutely terrible. On gets the easiest relic Q of his life, preventing Oner from getting in range for a flash smite steal. And now, this 4v5 is absolutely doomed for T1, and BLG proceeds to win game 1. Now, let's go to the championship deciding teamfight in game 5. Both teams are grouped in a river looking to pick a fight, but On gets too impatient, and he not only misses his relic Q onto Oner, but he is also in a dangerous spot surrounded by 3 T1 members. Guma looks to punish On, and Oner makes contact with Shun, forcing both of them to retreat. But in the meantime, Elk looks to pick off Keria on the side, and Elk instantly takes Keria to half HP. This fan formation from BLG, with everyone distributing aggro from T1, is what they're known for. In fact, Bin is also taking aggro from Zeus. And here, we see that this is a 5v4 that requires an immediate TP from Faker. Keria flashes to safety, and Shun uses Jarvan ult to trap Guma, and forces him to use Xayah ult. Both Shun and Guma then flash to safety, but BLG are closing in on their 5v4 with Bin lurking from below. Oner looks to focus On, but BLG are the teamfight kings, and Knight recognizes that it is Guma who needs to be focused and killed, not Oner. So together, Knight dashes forward with Ahri ult, and Bin flashes forward to dodge the Poppy ult. And Knight even uses Zhonya's preemptively to bait out Zeus' Gragas body slam. And once again, we see the concept of distributed aggro in full display here. BLG take turns drawing aggro from different T1 members to win teamfights. And here, On is dealing with Oner, and Knight is dealing with Zeus, so that Bin can focus down and kill Guma. Bin gets an insane Jax E that stuns Guma and Keria, and they both fall instantly. Finally, Faker TPs in to join the fight, but many people would think that this TP is an absolute waste. What can you do when your carry is dead and you're down in a 3v4? In classic BLG fashion, Bin TPs to cut off T1's escape path, and they look for more kills through clean positional advantages. It may seem like Oner is a lost cause, but before the flank fully manifests, Faker shuts down BLG's hopes and dreams with a Galio Flash W. BLG won so many matches from amazing setups, flanks, and fan formations, and they're the best team in the world at positional teamfighting. But this strategy fell short to T1, who doesn't care about your positional advantages. They will take any fight, no matter how disadvantageous, and they like those odds. Let's now take a closer look at how T1 won Worlds. One of the main strategies they used is Laneswaps, which can be very boring if the top laners from both teams don't even bother staying on the weak side of the map and play safe instead. But this is not a very T1 thing to do, so T1 added their unique flair to Laneswaps by having Zeus stay on the weak side and outplay dives. In game 2, T1 initiate a Laneswap and they have Zeus go bot. Usually this is a very bad idea, since the enemy jungler and maybe even the enemy top laner will dive you. And this is exactly what BLG has in mind. Shun does his red side camps, but he skips all of his blue side camps to arrive just in time for a 3-man dive bot. But Zeus has other ideas, and he looks to outplay the dive. Shun starts by charging up his 3 talent strike on the minions so that his next auto attack will knock up Zeus. And when Shun gets close, Zeus plays it safe, and he uses Ornn W in hopes of baiting out the knockup. But as soon as the Ornn W ends, Shun still hasn't used a knockup, so On autos Zeus to draw turret aggro and prepare to kill Zeus. But Zeus immediately flashes to the left to avoid getting knocked up by Shun, and he channels Ornn E into the turret that knocks up both On and Shun. This is incredible on so many levels, avoiding the Xin Zhao knockup, CCing Rakan under tower who just took aggro. But the most insane part is that Zeus leveled up W and E on Ornn instead of Q. Q is such a fundamental skill for Ornn, but Zeus was absolutely prepared for the dive, and he took W and E instead. Zeus gets a trade kill onto On, which is huge for T1. While the bot dive was happening, T1 is looking for their own 3-man dive top lane, but Bin is playing so far back and he gives up the wave. Guma and Keria are even proxying the next wave to further deny Bin of any farm. So, BLG tries to get Bin out of this terrible situation, with On rotating and Knight TPing in. They try to go aggressive on T1, but with Oner around, this is a fair 3v3 fight that T1 comes out on top. Faker even arrives to get a kill onto Bin. And despite BLG's proactive attempts to get early game leads, T1 is just better at playing the lane swap early game, and responds cleanly to everything BLG throws at them. Then at 6 minutes, T1 secures all 3 grubs and then look to dive top once again. This is very similar to the lane swap dive, where top and jungle joins the AD carry and support for a 4-man dive, while the mid laner is just vibing. A small skirmish breaks out before the wave crashes, and T1 gets significant chip damage onto On. This emboldens T1, since the dive will be so much easier if BLG's HP is low from the start. Knight is called to defend top, because BLG just can't afford to lose such a large amount of gold and XP from the wave. BLG has to stand their ground and soak the dive and find a miraculous way to stay alive while catching farm and experience. This is a beautiful setup from T1 that gets BLG into a state of panic. As soon as the wave is about to crash, everyone is in position. Oner has been lurking on the outskirts with his Nocturne ult, and On has been teasing the idea of a recall, but he just can't recall because otherwise, the other 3 BLG members would get utterly destroyed in the 4v3 dive. And this time, T1 play it cool and they don't go for the dive. Yet, Zeus and Oner are staying in the vicinity in case any BLG member does recall. The next wave arrives, and finally, On commits to the recall. BLG are praying that T1 don't know that On is gone, but thankfully, Elk collects this wave and he lives for another day. And as the third wave is about to arrive, T1 ups the ante, and Faker makes his way top for a 5-man dive, just as Bin shows himself bot without a TP. T1 are firing warning shots at BLG, making it painfully clear that they are counting down the days until they brutally murder BLG. The dive begins with Zeus and Oner using both Ornn and Nocturne ult to elevate BLG's blood pressure, but Elk uses Ashe ult to stun Zeus, and this prevents him from recasting Ornn ult. Meanwhile, Oner jumps on Xun because he is out of turret range. Xun desperately takes shelter underneath the outer tower with the help of On's heal, and the dive has officially begun. Zeus has been taking turret aggro, so he flashes to safety with a quarter HP. Meanwhile, the Galio taunt gets nobody since it only hits Oner, who absorbs it with Spell Shield. And then, T1 retaliates with beautiful layering of CC, with Keria pulling in Elk with Renata Q to set up Zeus' Ornn E knockup, followed by Guma's Kalista ult that knocks them up again. This leads to a double kill for Guma, and eventually a third kill onto Xun, who is still trapped under the turret. Many people will tell you that playing safe means hugging your turret, but T1 is the only team in the world that can make you feel less safe while you're under your own tower. T1 came into Game 4 with their backs against the wall. They were down 1-2, and BLG drafted a scaling comp with Smolder and Ziggs. Fans know all too well that Smolder and Ziggs can win by scaling and doing nothing. But T1 knew that the scaling team comp is beatable with a few important win conditions. 1. Force rotations from BLG by grouping and sieging. This prevents both teams from handshaking farm, which slows down the scaling process. And 2. Never take front-to-back fights. Instead, take scrappy fights and find incredible flank angles. Let's now see how T1 executed on this strategy. At 13 minutes into Game 4, T1 go for a dive onto Bin, but Bin survives with Mega Gnar, and he even nearly takes out Oner. BLG are looking to collapse and punish the overextended T1, but Keria has other plans. Keria arrives first, but instead of retreating with Zeus and Oner, Keria tucks himself into BLG's jungle to set up for a massive flank. Elk, On, and Xun are next to arrive, and they think that Zeus is playing like his usual cocky self. But little do they know that they are falling for the bait. They are slowly being cornered from all sides. Oner makes contact with On, who uses Rakan ult, and BLG are hoping to kill Oner and then kite down to get out of this mess. But critically, BLG fails to chain CC Oner with Sejuani ult after Rakan ult, and Oner taxis to safety with Poppy E onto Elk. And now, everyone's attention turns to Elk, who is in a super vulnerable spot as Ziggs, who would rather be poking from afar. Guma is in melee range of Elk, because he knows that Ziggs stands no chance in the 1v1. Focusing and killing Ilk also allows Oner to be bailed out by Keria's Renata W, and this leads to a teamfight wipe for T1. Guma flashes to chase down Shun, and Keria finishes the job with a flash Renata E auto in front of On and Bin, who just helplessly watched their jungler die. This skirmish embodies a fast and loose playstyle that is T1's comfort zone. T1 stand their ground and they don't miss. The second part of T1's win con is to slow down the rate of farm for both teams. This is done by excessive grouping, so neither team gets too much farm. And T1 knows that this is how you play against teams with mega scalers like Smolder. At 14 minutes, T1 sends everyone to fight over Herald, and BLG has to concede it because it's a 4v5 and Knight is farming bot. The onus is on T1 to snowball the early game, to not let BLG scale for free. So, while they are grouped, T1 decides to turn up the pressure on BLG by grouping top and threatening to take BLG's top outer tower. T1 looks to play very aggressively to force Ziggs and Smolder to give up their precious farm and TP top to group and defend. Faker and Guma dump their ults onto On, and Bin looks to punish T1 with a Mega Nard transformation. But this is still a 4v3 for T1, and it baits out both Knight and Elk's TPs. This overreaction from BLG is exactly what T1 wanted, but T1's aggression did backfire. Oner was focused down by BLG, and Guma tries to kill Bin, but he lives with 1 HP. All in all, this aggression from T1 was the right decision, but BLG are no slouches, and they punish T1 accordingly. At 20 minutes, the gold lead is dead even, but since BLG has a late game comp with Smolder, this is great for BLG. But T1 knows that they can win any teamfight as long as it's scrappy, and they find amazing flanks onto BLG's backline. And this clip is arguably the fight that turns around the momentum of the entire series. Knight and Elk are grouping mid to siege T1's mid outer tower, and Shun and On are on the way, while Bin is bot to answer Faker's split push. But already, T1 sees an opportunity for a massive flank, with Zeus coming from the left and Faker coming from the right. Guma fires a warning shot with his Ash Arrow, and BLG are already in a pickle. Guma fires another hawk shot to get complete vision of the BLG members, who are clumped and therefore vulnerable. Faker arrives first and he cancels the Rakan W knockup with Silasy, then steals Rakan ult, followed by Protobelt Flash to charm Knight and Elk, the two mega scalers. Neither of them has Flash. And the rest of T1 collapse onto the BLG backline. Keria follows up with Flash Renata ult, and Zeus is in range for a Rumble Equalizer. Knight and Elk are not only being cooked on the Equalizer, but are cooking each other. As soon as the hostile takeover finishes, Keria keeps him CC'd with Renata Q that throws On back and stuns Knight and Elk. And T1 are just downright merciless. Oner joins in on the fun with a flash 3-man Poppy ult. Without even needing Guma's DPS, T1 murder BLG's hyper carries with a beautiful flank from Faker. This flank leads to a free Baron for T1, and they have no issues closing the game from this moment onwards. Winning Game 4 ties up the series, and the rest is history. This iteration of T1 with Zeus, Oner, Faker, Guma, and Keria has won back-to-back World Championships, making them the best roster the world has ever seen. As the offseason begins, we shall see if this roster stays together for another year, and whether they can achieve the impossible, defeating Gen G in a domestic Grand Finals. Do you think T1 will stay together? What do you think they'll choose for their skins? Let me know in the comments. If you like analytical content like this, please hit the like and subscribe button for more. I also have a Discord server where you can chat with me and other analytical viewers. The link is in the description below. Take care and see you in the next video.